Well, there went my intro. I was going to introduce everybody. So.
I think it's time.
All right. By show of hands, how many people in the room have a smartphone? How many people have a clamshell phone? Nope, I didn't see anybody. We were just talking about it. We like the Motorola Razr. Anybody remembers that? Really amazing phone. So that's what we're going to talk about, the Motorola Razr. No, we're not. How many people are using some form of mobile marketing in your business today? By show of hands. And what kind of industries are you in? Okay, you're using mobile. How are you using it within?
Facebook advertising.
Okay. Anybody else?
Insurance and Facebook advertising.
Facebook? Anybody not using Facebook? Any SMS, text messaging type? Okay. Anything other than Facebook? Beacon technology? Hey, got a hand over here. All right.
I'm trying to use different branches of social media like Instagram,
Okay. Okay. Great. Well, we'll touch on. We'll definitely touch on that, especially towards the end. You know, I think there's some really interesting stats. You've probably heard some of these stats. There's more cell phone subscriptions in the world than there are people, which is kind of an interesting stat. John has several burners. I don't want to get into why he does, but he represents several. There's 2 billion smartphones in the world, and more than 2/3 of Americans have a smartphone. So it's part of the reason we're here, right? There's a very large audience out there. It's funny because in marketing, I used to run an agency, and 2010, 2011, every year you have these posts that would come out in January and say, "This is the year of mobile. Mobile's going to transform everything." And every year it was sort of not the year of mobile. 2016, however, mobile searches surpassed desktop searches on Google. Mobile is a viable part of every business. Banking, I think that's fascinating. That was the first one we looked at. I typically think of retail probably as a first response on mobile, but it is very much a business to business. It's not just the vertical in particular. It's ubiquitous, and so that's why we're here. That's why we're talking about it. And you know, I've been fortunate enough to be involved in this series for years, and it's evolved from, wow, this is Twitter, and this is what a hashtag is, into really how are we integrating these tools into our businesses. And so we're going to cover really 3 topic areas today. And you know, we're going to look at how to tap into a large mobile base to market your business. So we're really going to focus on the marketing aspect. We're going to look at the utility aspect of mobile. How are payments being made, reservations, and talk a little bit about that. And then engagement and brand building. And I think particularly with Twitter and Instagram and talking about that, there's multiple applications with those, but especially with engagement and generating conversation. That's really, really valuable. So we're going to do marketing, utility, and engagement. And so just to get started, before we get started, that's how my brain works, a little bit disjointed, and it's fine, don't worry about it. What I'd like to do is really open this up and make sure that we hit things that are going to be useful. When you walk out of the room today, we're going to give you information that hopefully you can go put into practice. That's where we will conclude today, is really giving several tips. But to make sure that this is really valuable and you get your money's worth, more than the box lunch, feel free to jump in and ask questions. Feel free to say, hey, I have a particular question here, a particular use. We want this to be very conversational. So, and you can use your mobile phones to tweet. No.
You text me.
All right. So, guys, why does mobile marketing matter? What's important about it?
That's the device of choice now. When you think about devices, every single year they get just a little bit smaller. Now they're getting a little bit bigger, right? 10 years ago, it was how can we make the phone smaller? Now, everybody's, how can I use one that's bigger? I want to watch more video. I want to get more out of my Facebook, my Instagram. I want to see better photos, a bigger picture. So everybody now is using a smaller device to get a bigger picture. So when you think about mobile as a device platform, a lot of times you'll read articles that are geared towards telling you tips and tricks to do better on mobile, right? Well, not everybody here does the same thing, right? So if you think about the way people are going to use mobile for your business, the reason it's so important this year is because mobile is going to become the most personal experience that people have with a device. Last year we talked a lot about how mobile was going to become a more personal experience. This year it really will, because as more apps evolve, as more technologies evolve, we'll touch on VR, augmented reality a little bit later, and we've talked a little bit about beacons, we talked about SMS and texting. The mobile device becomes the most personal device that you own, because you can't do with your laptop what you can do with your mobile phone. It used to be the other way around, right? But now your mobile phone actually houses apps that you can't use otherwise without a mobile device. So it's very important to embrace the fact that people are getting more personal. They want everything about them to be customized, because that's how technology has evolved. So it's going to become very personal this year, very important that way.
On average, just a guess, how many times do you touch a cell phone a day? Yes, it's numbers.
Over 100.
Over 100, yes. 500? Who said that? 1,500 times a day. On average, 1,500 times. Isn't that unbelievable? And so when you're saying it's part of our life, I think that's absolutely right.
Yeah, and it's like no other thing you can carry around, I'm a web developer, so I used to have to carry a laptop everywhere I went, because if somebody's website breaks, they do not care that you are on a flight or in a car, you need to pull over and fix it. Now, I can actually do everything web development-wise on my phone that I could do before on a laptop. So all of our jobs, everybody in here, your job is going to become available on a mobile device. You can take it everywhere with you. So when you think about all that and the way that you're using it, the way that you carry a mobile device, you would never carry a laptop in your pants. Think about that. It wouldn't happen. You would not want to use it later. But now we will take our mobile device anywhere. Let's get real here, okay? Everybody's been in that situation where Facebook, the best place to read it. Just saying. Just put that out there. So it is the most personal device you will own, and it'll just keep getting better, keep getting better.
And I think to piggyback on that as well is that there is that intimacy. Every one of your consumers, people that want to buy, use your product, they expect it on their mobile device, and they expect you to be able to cater to their needs. And every individual is sort of different. That's the beauty of mobile, and where we're going to is that you can actually create an environment that is specific for the audiences that you're trying to reach. And that's going to be one of the most highly sought after as we're continuing to move in is, here's the audience I'm trying to reach, here's the time I want to reach them, and I know that I'm in their pocket. How do I treat them right? Because if you don't treat them right, it's so easy for them to not like you. And that's just become the way we like and we not like that fast.
One of the things, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, but how many people have an Apple Watch or an Android watch? We're becoming mobile hotspots as well. We have all of this download of data that's completely connected in the world around us. And so think about that as well. That's something that we'll get into. John, I would ask medical, how do you see mobile devices transforming medical?
I'm on, so this is what I think. As far as Medicare industry goes, we talked some yesterday about how the industry is kind of going away from native apps and more towards device agnosticity, where you can make a web app so they can get to it wherever they're at, and it doesn't matter, you don't have to keep up with two different ecosystems. Luckily, they're going to two different systems. But for the most part, as far as medical goes, the medical industry is really lagging behind most other industry segments for a lot of reasons. Consumer privacy is a big deal, and it is one of the most heavily regulated industries in the place. And we should do everything we can to protect that. That said, that presents challenges with regard to what we can do and what kind of throughput we can have between the users and their device, and what we can do with that data easily and safe. And so, Kind of one of the things that we're excited about being able to do soon is we're working on a new health record system. And once that comes online, we're going to have access to APIs that we don't have in the past, where we can actually do things like more useful scheduling for the patient. Make it so the patient can get, perhaps one day soon, better access to their own records. You don't have to go through your provider to get to them. But that goes back to the healthcare industry as a whole is very slow to adopt new technology. So this is kind of, I'm kind of dreaming up here in front of all of you right now. It's on my list of things that would be super nice to do, but at the same time, we're not prepared to do them right now. Now, as far as marketing, I want to talk a little bit about, you guys.
Well, let's come back into marketing because I've got a specific question for you on that side. The one thing I would say that John brought up yesterday that I think is really important, it's the regulation that's preventing the application. Unfortunately, Donald Trump said yesterday 3/4 of all regulations he's going to repeal, so we're fine. We don't even have to worry about this. That was not even, it's not a political joke, please. It's a presidential joke. What you're seeing on the research side is amazing. Has anybody heard of 23andMe or done 23andMe? So this idea, he said it, of data aggregation of everything that's going through our life. We're moving into a world where all our steps are being tracked, our heartbeats being tracked. There's an EKG machine that I heard about last week that you just plug into your iPhone, you put your 2 thumbs on it, and it's more accurate than an actual EKG with the 8 nodes on it. We're moving into a quantified life like 23andMe where we're going to be taking that data and predicting out. But the difference between the research side and then the regulated application side, it's really interesting to hear where that impasse is. And so I think that's something that we'll pay close attention to.
There's the distance varies, but there's certainly a gulf between the two. What we're able to do with research and to the point where we can turn every single person in the world into a data home. And that's not a very romantic notion, but that's kind of what I had to do. So, the gulf between that and the application, there are a lot of unanswered questions. What can we do and what ought we do, or often, there's often difference as far as, especially as far as healthcare is concerned. So that's part of the conversation that I have every day.
That's good.
Is anybody in here dealing with any type of big data stuff while we're talking about that for a minute? Any type of, or understand what big data is? By show of hands, who does not understand what big data is, and it's okay not to understand that because it's still pretty new? All right, so there's lots of companies that are into big data right now. I'm sure Andrew and Jeremy's companies are very, very big into this market. Big data is this very immature idea right now that is trying to surface, whereas by garnering 15 or 20 different things about you, I can garner 15 or 20 things about somebody like you. And basically I can take and aggregate all that information to know exactly where my client's going to be, what they're going to do, what they're going to think, how they're going to feel, and how they're going to react at any given time.
And to that point, honestly, that's kind of an extension of, in marketing we set up user personas. Mm-hmm. It's an extension of that. It's a way to apply data to the assumptions that we made from the first set of technology. So it helps us make better, more informed decisions about where our audience is,
yeah,
and what they want out of it.
And there's companies selling devices that manage this, but there's also several apps on the market right now that are helping aggregate this data. A lot of you use Google Analytics, right? Google Analytics is this fantastic, even with the free version, way to collect small tidbits of big data. And it's mostly underutilized because most people don't dig far enough to get to it. But all those data points we're talking about, when you're talking about, especially with mobile devices, every single data point that you can garner off somebody is going to tell you more about the next person just like them, and tell you more about consumer traffic, and tell you more about the next purchase, and tell you more about purchasing habits. So as you go through this year, one of the big trends is going to be this big data, and you'll hear us talk about that throughout this and ways that it's being used. But I think John touched a little bit on medical industry, especially in the financial industries too, as far as consumer privacy are concerned. There's actually tidbits of information you can garner off of people that in these industries you might not be allowed to use yet. You might not be ethical to use yet, but the more personal you can make their experience because of that data, the better off you're going to be. So all of you that have websites that collect, let's say, information online. Anybody have a website with a form on it that collects information? What's it collect?
Online application collects all their financial information, socials, children, marriage, banks.
So when you think about the experience from that, typically the end use for that from now until 2016 was, I need to go apply for a loan. Let's get them an application started, right? So that's not going to work anymore. If you think about that experience-wise, that's not going to work because this year you can't just get somebody a loan. You have to create an experience. So when you think about that information, I sign up for a loan. I say I got 3 kids, hypothetically make a couple $100,000 a year, and I need a loan for $10,000. What's that tell you about me?
You can afford a $10,000 loan.
That I can afford a $10,000 loan. What else?
You really don't make millions of dollars.
What's that?
I said, you really don't make millions of dollars.
Right.
Spend all your money.
Spend all my money, probably.
Or
Probably
if they
right.
tell you that you're not good with your money because you're needing a $10,000 loan, you're making $100,000.
And thus is a risk.
That's an assumption. It's a good one, but it's an assumption. What else did you miss there, though? I got 3 kids, so when I come into your office, what do you need to do for me?
Childcare,
Maybe.
something to occupy them.
Candy.
Maybe. What if you had a mobile app, though, where I could handle some of it without coming to your office? Or what if your mobile website handles some of it for me? Because if I got 3 kids, how hard is it going to be for me to find an hour to come into your office without them? So that's the part of the experience you got to be thinking about. This is the thinking ahead part. So we talked about all this big data. Big data is a very large industry term for something that's much bigger than what you really need in the consumer market. Marketing, these big marketing firms and agencies and financial firms, they need this huge data so they can understand market trends. They can understand how people are going to come in. When somebody's filling out your online form, big data is enough to tell me what I need to do when they come to my website or when they come to my office. To make that experience more personal.
Well, so we're going to move into mobile marketing, and I think John said something a minute ago about personas. One of the things that you glean from what the example just was, you start to get more information to create a personalized experience. This idea of the experience, that's what big data, artificial intelligence gives you. Your phone is a trove of data. If you've got an iPhone, if you ever look up frequently visited places under your settings, it shows you where you spend all your time. It's enough to really creep you out. Or for someone like me, it's awesome because it's so much great data. But Andrew, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, creating personalized experiences through a marketing experience by what's available on your phone through geofencing or whatever. Can you get into that? Maybe just start with a broad definition of what mobile marketing is and how it gets there to a personalized experience.
Absolutely. And it's, a lot of what John said is going to be piggybacking on what do you need? We work with Reagan Libraries, SeaWorld, the City of New York. When we're trying to create campaigns to develop, we look at all of this big data. And don't be scared of it. The best data that you can find is in those little nuggets. It's how many kids do you have? It's what do you like? Ask questions that people are inclined to answer. We all get to that, like, give me your email, and you're like, which email do I want to give them that I never look at? And we all have that email. Like, you get this one that is just full of spam. So you want to create an experience that gives them, they want to feel good. And that's, where you can dive in to start offering them things, asking them questions, learning about them, and get that big data on your side. Because it's not big. It's just simple data. But that you can extrapolate and then use going into more of the marketing aspect and knowing who your audience is. Because once you can understand your audience from a geofencing standpoint, where do you want your ads to show up? We're getting out of that place where we want to have our ads just get blasted all over. You know, that's easy to do, it's cheap, hey, what's my CPM? It's $2, perfect, I'll buy, you know, $5,000 worth of it. And who cares? Where's it going? How are you really extrapolating what you're creating? Where now we can say, this is my audience. I have a building here, brick and mortar. I want to target people within a 5-mile radius that are showing this kind of behavior. And I'm going to have my ad cater to that behavior. And when they come through that portal, I'm going to send them to a spot where I can start to learn more about them. You see, I mean, that's where it gets fun, and that's actually simple to do. Those are pretty easy. Hey, I've got a competitor. You know, geofencing is great. I was just laughing with John about geoconquesting is even better, because that's when you say, here's my building, and here's who I am, and that's my biggest competitor. You know where I want to be? Right there. And I'm going to set myself up there to be able to show, hey, look who I am. Pull from there. You may notice if you go on, they don't do it much around here, but if you're on a Ford dealership, you may find that all of a sudden you're seeing ads for Chevy. Because what they're saying is, we know that you're on a Ford dealership, and we want to tell you how much better we are than a Ford.
Can you explain briefly, you kind of talked about it, geofencing, geoconquering. How does that work in application?
So a lot of that is first defining, know your audience. You know, we're going to get into, so once you have that knowledge, and when you're talking about where am I going to geofence, that is as simple, and you can go into ad platforms and buy, you can do this in social media, you buy this on Instagram now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, virtually everyone offers it, to where you can outline exact zip codes if you want to, or you can literally take an outline of where you want your ads to show up. So I want my ads to show up here. Okay. So now we know that's going to go, and you can pick Instagram, Facebook, you can have that on the Google network of where people are going to be located on there. Remember, all of this, well, it's not all on phone, but it virtually is, right? I mean, if you are showing up, if I'm on a Wi-Fi at Panera, and all of a sudden I'm in that geofence and I'm showing a behavior, you're just as much of an audience member that I want to talk to, right? So you can create that sort of area space that you want to deliver your ad, who you want that ad delivered to, and then it's up to you to create the right ad, the right experience, and then so much, very important, is where do they go when they engage on that? Because so often we're able to catch them. You know, you're looking at, wow, your ad was clicked how many times? What was that conversion? What did you actually get from that? Well, sometimes it's just because you're not sending them to the right spot, right? We've got to cater. If we know our audience, if you know me and you know what you don't want to know exactly. I mean, it gets crazy inside here. But if you know who I am, you want to send me to a place where I'm going to experience your product. And we're at a place now where you no longer have to sit there and spoon feed me a bunch of stuff that I already know. Because guess what? I've already done my research.
Well, so it sounds like, so take your Ford example again, and it sounds like you're kind of going down the buyer's journey kind of conversation right now. So describe that experience. You're at a Ford lot, you're deeper in the buyer's journey. Talk about relevance of ad there and how you would want to think about that as opposed to maybe a desktop ad where somebody may be searching for the first time a car lot.
So we know right off the bat in that situation that we've got a person that's in the buying mode. I mean, we don't, for dealing with a salesperson is miserable in the first place. So the only reason you go to a car lot is because we want to buy, right? So we're there, we're interested, we've done a ton of research, I'm on there, and now what do we do when we're on a car lot too? It's like the salesperson's talking, you're like, trust me, I know more than you, right? So you're researching that vehicle or its competitors. Boom, that's where you have an opportunity. That's where you'll find that Chevy ad. And when you see that ad, you'll find that it's the 9 out of 10 people choose Chevy over Ford. What am I doing here? Because we want to create dissonance. I mean, that's what all of our ad space wants to do. We create that dissonance in some individual, and that's going to make them react, right? That's why you'll see everyone that's talking about something medical will have a stethoscope all around their neck. That's all you need to be a doctor now. You don't need to go to school anymore. It's great. I wear one when I just want to convince someone about selling medical. Put a stethoscope on, you're going to believe me, right? create that dissonance within that ad, and then when I engage on it, I send them to the solution. We're right down the street, next door. You know, you'll find that Chevy and Ford dealerships are usually relatively close. Tell the consumer. 9 out of 10, we're right down the street, come on down. I mean, we were talking about, I could go on, cut me off, but you got an idea as far as that?
The important thing with geofencing and geoconquesting to remember is exactly what he said there is the only way it's going to be good for you, the only way your money's going to work is if you can motivate somebody to get their butt out of the seat and out the door. So basically, if you just serve up an ad that says, we're awesome, why? That's the only, you have to answer one question when you do geofencing and geoconquesting. When they see your ad on Facebook, Instagram, it's most likely going to be one of those. When they're sitting in the dealership, why would I get up out of this seat and go down the road when I've already wasted time on this? So you got to give them a big motivator to get up and out the door. And I think that all tailors, when we're talking about the type of ad, tailors to that personal experience. You know,
Yeah, I think that's really important because the idea, you said it, it's not about bulk anymore. It's about as refined as you can be. The more segmented you can be, the better. And so even thinking about, you know, the forms, I like that example. John, I would ask you, what you get out of mobile is you have many more data points than you do just with the desktop form like you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about what the marketers or the programmer's responsibility is towards privacy with gathering all that data and sort of how you think about that.
As far as how we handle any data that we gather, as soon as once it comes into my office, it goes into the cloud. It never leaves that. Now, and this is to the other point about you know, if you've got a user and you want to create dissonance, Covenant Health is clearly better than Tanovo. Why? How? You know, we want to you know, a lot of how you word them goes to, you know, speaks to, you know, the demographic that you're speaking to at the time. So, you know, for example, you know, as far as healthcare goes, of course, the population is getting older, and we have increasingly connected population. So even though the lowest adoption rate of mobile is the 65 and over age bracket, that's the most users looking for healthcare. They need it. So how do we speak to my grandma versus how do we speak to me? How do we speak to my nephew? That kind of, and you know, different age groups respond to different autisms. And so, you know, it speaks to not only the data that you use, but how you use that data. For example, if somebody in the younger age group, we don't need to be smoking. We've already done the research. We know what we're going to do. Not everybody that goes to WebMD is convinced they got cancer, so they're just going to get it. Or you know. So for the most part, the more connected the population, the easier your job actually becomes. You know, tell them like where and what they need is, and they'll do the work for you as long as you create a good impression of your brand. And I think that's going to go towards something we're talking about.
Yeah. So how many people in here have an app for your business? Okay. That's a great place where you get a lot of data points. And so what are you doing with that data? How are you using it? You know, you've gotten these notifications that you have to install the app that says this, which I always love how it's got like a 2-week delay. By the way, this app's been using all your data and your blood time in the last 2 weeks. Do you want to change it? But what do you do with that? There's a great story about Sports Clips and how they increased their revenue by many, many millions of dollars by using their app to understand the segment, to understand their persona of a male between the ages of 18 and 24, never makes an appointment, and is always looking for a good deal. And they use their app and use the location information and then the local weather forecast to determine when they had the lowest number of people in the seats. And they would cut the price of the haircut in half if it's raining outside, and they would use the geo-targeting of where the location of those phones were by using that app, and it would send it across and say, yes, I'll be there in 15 minutes for a $5 haircut or whatever. And so all of that information is available in some apps, in some, you know, in some data sources that you're pulling in. And I think as the marketer, you have to be respectful of that. We're all very concerned about our privacy. And so it's a lot different than just putting a few fields in a form. Obviously, when you said, you know, that you collect social, you've got the PII associated with that. So you have to be very delicate with that. How much more delicate do you have to be with location information and all of those things that will totally creep somebody out?
Yeah.
So that's a segue to the question. If you don't have an app, for most of the people in here, do you need one? Do you need to build one?
No.
I don't think so.
No, I think that this is last year was really the year, but this year is gonna be the marker where people don't make apps anymore because you don't need them.
Peak app, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
You're gonna coin it today?
It is the peak app year. And here's the deal, mobile websites, you made an app because getting on somebody's device was hard, you know, and people didn't use their mobile browser. And if anybody remembers QR codes. Yeah. Anybody use QR codes before? Yeah. What fateful garbage that was, right?
There's a few good applications. I'm still gonna defend them.
Garbage. Digital garbage.
We spent a whole summer in my art department putting QR codes on everything.
Somebody in here tell me what QR app you use. QR code reader app you use. Exactly. Proof positive. But, and the second reason that you got an app after people were using mobile browsers more often was because you couldn't get the data off the phone. Well, as Safari and Dolphin and Chrome got better, which are the top 3 browsers on mobile phones, as they got better, now I can pull more off your smartphone without an app through your mobile browser just because you accepted the original phone's terms of use. Does that make sense? The privacy policy on your phone, the day you get it and it says hello and you type your stuff in, is weak. Super weak. It says you're going to give up pretty much everything that's on there no matter if you like it or not. Now what happens in an app is I have to put my own privacy policy because it's the only way I can get in the app store. But on a mobile website, I don't really have to tell you anything that your device didn't already tell you, right? Now there's some protections for you as far as the law is concerned. There's PCI compliance, you know, there's definitely HIPAA compliance rules about it, but there's still more information than your mobile browser that I could get from having you install my app, and it's less steps, because as people are getting used to these kooky domain names like goo.co and stuff like that, and whatever John's email address is without all the vowels in it, it's like COB, HLTH or something like that. People are getting used to that. They don't care what they are anymore, so I can get domains that are 5 letters long and people will go to them. You know, so.
And actually more likely to, because it's just issues.
Absolutely. So as you're in a mobile browser, and if I can use my website, so websites are mostly responsive now. If somebody tries to sell you on a website that is not, you need to get rid of that guy. All right? You know, you need every website should be responsive because it's easy now. It's not as hard as it used to be.
Does everybody know what a responsive website is?
Explain that.
Yeah.
Okay, so responsive website, used to you had 3 types of websites. Mobile, desktop, and adaptive. Then responsive came along, and responsive is exactly what it means. It responds to whatever device it touches. So basically, my website's going to shrink and fit gracefully on every screen size just because it is designed that way. And that doesn't mean that my code says something about the browser. It says something about the screen type that it's going to be on. So with a responsive website, which are easy to get now, they're easy to get. I can collect all the information I could collect through an app, and I know people will use it. Amazon is a great use case for this. How many of you have the Amazon app? All right, about 12. How many of you go to Amazon in your mobile browser? How many of you have the Amazon app and prefer to use it in your mobile browser? Exactly. Amazon has statistics about this, that about 61% of their user base on mobile comes through the mobile browser instead of using their app. That's why they haven't updated their app in forever. So when you think about that, if the largest online retailer in the world thinks mobile website is better, why shouldn't we? And the reason they do that is because what can you not do on a mobile app that you can do on a mobile browser? Retargeting. retargeting. Does everybody know what retargeting is? So retargeting is this. I go on Amazon and I search for Little Bunny Foo-Foo socks. All right? Now later on, when I'm on Facebook, I get an ad for Little Bunny Foo-Foo socks from Amazon because I searched for it. That's called retargeting.
Because you didn't buy it.
Right. I did not purchase it. Sometimes even if you do purchase it, you still get it
Well,
anyway.
and what's it, and actually Amazon does a fantastic job of that. It's not even just what you didn't purchase, it's what, based on what you did purchase, it's what you might like to have back.
Absolutely. That's why you get,
That's big data. I mean, when he was talking about big data earlier, that's predictive analytics. That's exactly what it's in action.
so you don't need an app because you can do way more with your mobile website through ad platforms, retargeting, Facebook, Instagram on the mobile, and you can get more data. Jeremy was talking about the recently visited places on your phone. Anybody know how private that data is? It's not. It's not. That's the reason why you pull up Google Maps and it can suggest to you where you might want to go next.
It tells you where your car's parked. It tells you how long it's going to take to get. It's unbelievable how much.
I was working like 1 a.m. the other night, and as I'm walking out the door to my office, my phone beeps, and I look, I'm like, who is this? And Google's like, it'll take you about 17 minutes to get home now. And I'm like,
Light traffic.
that's pretty good.
And all of you can take advantage of this.
Right.
Like, that's the key, right? And don't throw away your app. It still works. Like, I still know people that build the apps because there are functionalities. There are ways that you can ping users. There are ways that you can really harness some really awesome data and be able to use it.
That's it, if you don't have it, if you don't have an app, you know, think hard about whether you need one. Because, you know, the upkeep cost of that,
Right.
you know, needs to be factored into that. You know, what do you want to do for your next road? How much is that going to cost you to do? And make sure that it works on all 11 billion different Android devices plus the iPhone.
Do Android devices still exist?
So I want to move along just a little bit. The one thing I would just sort of put a footnote on this at the end, I think John was hitting a really important point. How are you relying on the native apps that are in the phone when you get it from default? Email, text messaging, the browser, those are the keys in trying to think about that. I'm still a huge believer in text messaging marketing. And we had a little debate about this yesterday, but there are really valuable uses, especially when segmented, to use it just like marketing automation, where it can drip out particular information. It can be a part of your larger marketing ecosystem. But that is a native app. And one of the things I'm going to ask them to talk about for just a second is there's a big move towards chatbot functionality. Has anybody heard of that, not heard of that, chatbot? So what it's doing, it's tying into big data sets. So instead of coming in, and Google did this at the very early days, 2004, you could text message Google a query and it would send you back search results. Well, now this has expanded into a new universe where apps like Quartz, if you've used that, it's a newsreader app, it will have an interactive experience. It will text message you news and you respond to it as to whether you like that news or not, and it's learning your preferences as to make sure to get you the right news. These same types of functionality, I think that's what we're going to see in the next year and a half or 2 years, are more dependency on native apps that are like that. So text messaging, how am I texting into a large database of inventory, car inventory? Do you have any red Ford Tauruses today? And it will tell you, yes, we have 3, and these are the features that are in them. It's just tying data sets to user experience to make it personalized and enhanced. And I think that theme you'll continue to hear and you've heard today, it's about creating this experience for the person that's not just vanilla and out of the box. So, SMS, alive or dead?
Alive. A lot.
What are some good uses of SMS?
My 2 favorite ones right now are when you're waiting on a table at a restaurant. It'll text you and let you know so you don't have to carry that pager in your back pocket. And the second one is the appointment reminders, because I'm not sure how to operate a calendar, because I'm a millennial. But appointment reminders are the 2. Those are the 2 best ways I've seen. However, I really like that you talked about chatbots because anybody used any of Facebook's chatbots yet? Oh my gosh, they're amazing. There's one called Poncho that'll tell you the weather every morning because you can't go outside on your own. See that it's raining.
Or just look at your phone.
Yeah. I prefer Poncho to tell me that it's going to be raining. But there's also, you can get an Uber through Facebook Messenger now. Why is that important? Because What can Facebook do that Uber can't do? Nothing, except keep history better, right? That's it. But what are you always on when you're out? Facebook. So when you think about that, you know, you can say I need an Uber. Facebook can tell your location. It can tell you what your ride fare is going to be. It can tell if you're with people, which is interesting, something Uber cannot do. But it's very cool in that way. You can grab pizza on Facebook, and it's conversational. With chatbots and SMS, you're going to see the personal experience become more conversational. So,
Who has an Amazon Echo? So that's a chatbot, right? You're asking it a question, it's giving you a response, it's the most approachable form. And what they are doing now is incredible. Jeopardy just ran a game. You could ask to play Jeopardy and it would have an interactive experience. They've polled children that are less than 10 years old. They now have gender identification, to Siri and to Alexa, and they assign gender. This is a woman that I'm speaking to. It's going to become very normalized in our process to deal with artificial chatbots and communication styles. So it's just pay attention to that, and how is there an application for you? Is there, so thinking about what you said a minute ago, you talked about the long form. How can you make that a very usable experience? How can you break that down into smaller pieces so that you're gathering along their journey as they're thinking about a loan? You've already gathered that, and then you're just asking critical questions at once. And chatbot's a great way to actually be interrogative and get those things out.
Make getting a loan fun.
yeah.
That's the aim. Make it fun.
Absolutely.
You can also make a chatbot ask questions that you wouldn't think about. So one of the things that I'll talk about later is called Motion.ai, and it's a drag and drop chatbot platform. And basically what it does is, based on responses, gives the next question or gives the next response from the chatbot. So if they're filling out a loan application, you need all that main information. But if they type in that they make this much and need this much, and you know that that's going to trigger an alarm in your system, what can you ask them next to ask why? That equals less input for you. And let's be honest, as we go out in the world, we're dealing with things now. None of us want to talk to each other. I like all of you, but if I'm getting a loan, I'd much rather just talk to something else that's not going to yell at me or look at me judgmentally or not offer me water when I come in the office.
Yeah, some people like anonymity. They like going to the website and actually doing the application online. They don't want to come in. You ask them to meet, and they don't want to come in.
Right.
Absolutely.
So that one, just to go back and I'll let you, the chatbots.io, I highly encourage you just to check that out. If you didn't capture that, I know you threw it up quickly. It's worth checking out.
And just to piggyback on that, which is all of you know those certain questions that you want to ask, and you know the answer that you want to get, that you're closer to closing the deal, whatever that is, whatever industry you're in, you know if I say, ask this question and I get this answer, that this is a person I can close or is someone I really want to talk to. That's where a lot of this chatbot gets, you can implement these responses, these questions that you can ask. And like we were just talking about, it's a lot easier for me to be vulnerable to a machine because I don't even think that there's another person on the other end that's receiving all of that data. So whatever it is that your industry's in, think about how in that sort of dynamic, it's not a human being talking to a person. You can ask the questions, you can get personal. Because I no longer am really fearing you, and you'll find that that I'm more honest. And then you can respond to that. At any time you can bring in the human element. That's the beauty of it. At any moment, it's a matter of, we would love to get in contact with you. We would, here's a person. Hey, it's Judy, and now a person can come and start actually communicating. So those are a lot of things that businesses are taking advantage of at a very macro level, with all of these chatbots, because you can ask those questions, and people are a lot more apt to answer them honestly, and then you can come in and bring them in.
Let me pause. We're going to move into utilities, but before we do that, what about marketing? Any questions on, as we kind of conclude that section, any questions about using mobile, really in marketing, advertising, lead generation?
Most of this was on the consumer side, working with, I want to buy something. But for us, we're a logistics company. How would you use this in more of a corporate to corporate?
Like a business to business.
Logistics is an interesting field to talk about chatbots in because warehousing is becoming highly automated in a lot of industries. If you look at Amazon's warehouse, it's run by automated forklifts, and those forklifts are actually run by the technology that runs Amazon Echo. And it's voice activated, it's given a plot and told where to go, set orders and how to pay. Talking about business to business. Siri, Google Home, Alexa, and a lot of that, they're going to become utilities for the business owner this year more than ever. I use Siri every single day on my Mac to type for me because I can type really fast, but I type in code most days. I speak better than I type. You know, you'll end up with some angle brackets inside of my Word documents. But what happens is with Siri, I can actually talk to her and get her to type much faster. This is your communication platform now. If you think about this, there have been several studies. I think Entrepreneur Magazine did one of the best ones where they talked about how much more productivity can I get out of my digital assistant. So emailing customer to customer, huge, because I can send 10 emails to one speaking versus typing. And also, when I hear it coming out of my mouth, it'll stop me from saying something stupid. A lot of times, because I hear it come out loud, and I'm like, Not anything. But another way too is your softwares that you use to manage certain things. I don't know what platform you're using to manage appointment scheduling and deliveries. They will become more chatbot driven, and you can make your website deal with those mechanisms to schedule deliveries, to schedule pickups and things like that. Through those chatbots and things like that. One thing cool with that, I think, especially in logistics, is I used to work for Pilot Flying J, and they were talking big about trucking and gas prices when I was there. Fuel prices for trucking. One of the ways they were using big data chatbots and so on and so forth is with their My Pilot app for truck drivers. If you've ever seen how the app works, it can actually tell you what the next Pilot destination or Flying J destination on your trek is. One of the cool things they were doing when I left there was using that kind of chatbot / big data application to say, okay, tell me how many miles you have to empty. Tell me where you're going. And by telling the device that, it can say, skip this Flying J because it's 10 cents more and go to this one 50 miles away. So it's in your industry, and even in other business-to-business industries, what you're going to see is all this technology for mobile come to a point where people are preferring to use it to get better answers and get more concise pricing, better drop-off pickup points, and so on and so forth through those applications.
What are your clients, what are their biggest pain points?
Since we're full load, it's not like, FedEx, we do only tractor shipment that way. It's more dock-to-dock, full load shipments where, maybe long haul, maybe localized area or whatever. So tracking that may or may not be the easiest thing based on how we do logistics. So a lot of times there'll be emails coming back and forth on tracking a load or a response to how we're doing, what are we doing with that load.
So anytime you have data on one side, and I think that's really important, any proprietary data you have, some of these technologies we talked about, chatbots and IO, different types of technology, where you can go in and give access to that through some sort of chatbot. That's interesting. Application development, where you're actually requiring drivers to use that app and track location. That gets into a whole different avenue, but that's an opportunity. And then I think thinking about when there's a less than full load and being able to pack that truck all the way by showing that remnant inventory. There's a lot of things I've seen that are like that are really in that specific space. And that's something that's immediately trackable by the driver who is predominantly going to use a phone over any other type of device. And so using that capability, I think, is really valuable.
And the customer service aspect of it, as far as making sure, obviously having to know your industry a bit better, but I know that in that logistics, there's always are we late? Are they showing up on time? Are they doing their job? And that's where SMS can come in huge, where you can, ping individuals right when the load got there. Whoever that decision maker is, or you want to keep happy, have them get that email or that text. And then they can respond. Things are great. boom, comes right back. You can track all of that throughout the entire process from the beginning of load left, picked up, going out, and then as you're watching that, you'll have something that always, that goes right into your data. You know you're keeping them happy.
And to speak to the psychological side of it, if you use a notification system to let your client stakeholder know when your shipment has come up, that helps create a more positive impression of your brand.
That's the thing about
Because
Amazon.
you're confident, if as a logistics company, if you can demonstratively prove that you're constantly on top of what your business is about, how much better is your business going to be regarded by your client?
And you're not doing anything. It's automated, right? Like you set it up. Okay?
I think that's the trick in what you said. You have to get engaged. If you're letting the data do the work for you, there's a totally different experience going on there.
When you're talking about email too, as far as chatbots, SMS are concerned, all these platforms that you do chatbots and SMS with, they can read your email, look for keywords, and then send you 100 text messages to tell you that you need to respond. So I mean, if you just talk about, if you get 100 emails a day and 8 of them are really important, you can tell the chatbot what it's going to say and get it to text you and get it to respond to that person and say, right on it, we're going to be with you in a few minutes.
Right,
You know?
we just did that on we're testing right now, using a CRM and customer service portal, where if somebody sends an email into that, it'll take that email, it'll dispatch it, it'll pull it apart and send information to different parties based on what the email said.
And that's the same type of technology chatbots are using.
Yep.
The only difference is the artificial intelligence aspect of it.
Right.
Whereas a chatbot will learn, which we didn't need to cover, but I'll cover it really quick. One of the, you guys order pizza? Coolest thing I've done on Facebook's Messenger app is order pizza from Pizza Hut right down the road from me, which I could go to, but I prefer to let them deliver it because, I'm lazy. But order pizza from them through the Messenger app and do it 5 times, 5 different ways. By the 5th time, it will have learned and it will say, you ordered cheese sticks last time, you sure you don't want that? That's what their online app can't do. It's what it won't do. But with that Messenger app, it's like, sure you don't want some cheese sticks, bro? And I'm like,
And really, everybody wants to choose.
yeah.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
But, and with the Facebook payments stuff, we talked about, we didn't get to mobile payments, so we're getting that.
Yes, next. Let me leave this. Any other big questions on marketing? All right, we'll go on. The one thing that I would say that is a nice segue app is IFT. If you're not familiar with it, IFTTT. They've actually rebranded as IFT now. But it does exactly what John was saying. You can program lots of commands to say, if this action occurs over here, then do this. If I get an email from this person, make sure and text message me. If I get an email from this person, make sure and delete it and block them. But that's a whole different thing. We won't get into that.
You can even set it up like if you have a Kenmo lock system or a Nest thermostat, things like that, to say, if my schedule says I'm leaving for home, go ahead and turn the temperature down to this. You can say, with your Kenmo locks, you can say, my plumber's supposed to be here at 10:30. When he texts this number, unlock the door. Which is interesting.
And you can geofence with it as well. So you can do you can do lightweight applications with that, even with the logistics thinking about that. You can do lightweight geofencing applications where when that driver hits a certain geofence that it's sending a text message. But
yeah, and it's all very easy. It's drag and drop, and it's plain language. You don't have to have any development knowledge. You don't need a technologist or some special book to do this.
Sorry. All right, let's go into utility. How are businesses using mobile to run their businesses now?
Payments are the big one.
Yeah.
Payments are the big one. Anybody can use Venmo? Venmo is cool. I got money from Venmo this morning. It changed my life, mostly because I'm having more money now. But we were talking yesterday about Apple Pay. Anybody use Apple Pay? Best thing about, does Samsung have one too? I don't stay up on Android.
Samsung's got one and Android has it.
Okay.
So the Android ecosystem has an Android plan, but Samsung has a specific.
So every
And nobody
device,
takes a Samsung plan, so.
every device has a payment thing. Apple Pay is accepted almost everywhere now. Coolest thing that ever happened to me with Apple Pay, I'm at Starbucks in the mall. My car is parked in the back 40 next to the police name at Christmas time. And I reach into my pocket and I'm like, whew, there's no wallet, but there's coffee. And I'm on my watch, pop it up, and here I have Apple Pay. I pay, I'm done. I don't need the wallet. You know, if you think about travel, you know, if I lose my watch, it's not tethered to my phone, which means you can't use it. So, but if I lose my wallet, you've got all my stuff. But I can walk away, leave the wallet in the hotel room and pay pretty much anywhere. And if they don't have it, they don't deserve my money. But payments are going to be the biggest deal in mobile utility as far as this year. If you've seen restaurants changing their ecosystem over the last year, everybody used to have the big touch screens, right? Now you see more of them with these flip around square registers on iPads, right? Even some of the bigger chains, Starbucks is going to the Square payment system nationwide. So if a chain that big is going to go to Square, who else is going to do it? Why? If you get a touch screen, that thing costs you about $1,000 for one. You need like 5 or 6. You get a Square reader, $60. iPad, $3.99. Register system, $99. It does everything the same. Here's another core difference though. If you have a credit card processor now, anybody in here in credit card processing before I make anybody mad? All right, if you have a credit card processing machine, that machine costs you per swipe, per month, fees for the leasing the equipment. Square reader costs you $60 once. You can carry it in your pocket. Goes with you everywhere.
If you've been to the point where you have a lot of small concerns,
Plus
the merge table is actually run via a Square.
Yeah. So think about this too. Batching. If you have a regular credit card machine, you got to batch at night, and then you get your money in 3 days. So Square, I can batch the minute you pay me, and I get my money tomorrow in most cases. You can actually, if you pay them money, they will give you your money instantly.
Which is better, Square or PayPal?
All right, so here's my.
Or are they the same?
Anybody?
Apple or Android? I don't know.
Just say Square. Square's got the better technology, and they have a register app. PayPal has an app. Kind of sucks.
If you're integrating it with like online giving and like through your website though, and PayPal's already set up there, would you stick with PayPal or would you go to Square?
I would stick with PayPal because they're.
Well, the transaction fee, I mean, I was saying that a second ago, but that's one thing you really have to look at is the per transaction fee. They will eat you up, and so
Who is
even
they?
with both, well, both will. And so there are actually nonprofit pay, I think WePay is one of them.
Yeah.
It's a nonprofit payment processor. If you're just gonna do it on the web, that's what I would use because it's half the transaction cost. When you're talking about $10,000 or $100,000 and you're giving up 8 basis points per swipe or.
Is WePay only like online or can you do it in person?
You can do it in person through their app. It's not as easy as PayPal.
But it's free?
It is.
Free is
Well, the
easy.
service isn't completely free.
No, I think it's about half the transaction fee.
Yeah. The
They still
trans-
make money.
Yeah, they're still going to get a swipe fee and a per transaction percentage. The reason I say with PayPal, WePay is easy to integrate, not as easy as PayPal. If you don't have a web developer that can handle integrating WePay, stick with PayPal because it's, you drop in some code and it's done. WePay is a little bit harder that way, but it's still very good. Yeah.
Doesn't PayPal have more merchants you can use? Like if you're already embedded with a merchant based on another credit card thing, can you integrate your PayPal system to your own current merchant?
You can. It's 6 to 1, half dozen to another. Square does it too. So does Stripe. If I'm integrated with another payment gateway, I'm going to use Stripe.
That's what we do.
Because Stripe's analytics are insanely good, completely legal, and how many of you completely legal? How many of you know what's held in the magnetic strip on the back of your card?
It's basically your entire banking like codes.
Yeah, I get all the information about your account. I get your transaction history for the last swipes you've done.
No way.
Can grab that from Stripe.
Stripe is awesome.
Can't tell where you went, but I know exactly how much you spent, so I know your spending history based on that. I get your address, cell phone number if you've tied it to the card through Stripe. So, I mean, if I'm tied to another payment gateway, I'm using Stripe because I want to mine all your data and sell you everything I know you buy.
and then sell that data to other people. And then you tie it in Axiom technology, then you take Axiom, I love, Axiom is amazing what they can provide you. And it's just, and you can take any data that you have, and there's a lot of places out there. You can take your data and then merge with another company like Axiom, which is a big data company, and then pull even more resources of exactly who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, with just all of our, I love the statistics about, like our grocery, you know, when we scan our grocery card and that, how they're able to say that you're pregnant before you know. Just before, because of your eating habits, because of what you're buying.
Sent somebody a catalog. That was a big case study a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Where, a woman received a catalog.
It's Target.
Yeah.
But I haven't read it, read The Power Habit, Charles Duhigg. It's got the whole case study.
It's awesome. It's
scary.
What is it? Say it again.
Power of Habit. It's a,
Power of habit.
but,
So
so,
it's a book.
So let's go, we've got a few minutes, so I want to try and make sure we use our time judiciously. We brought this up on the phone, and you said that, I would still like to talk about VR for just a second and augmented reality, because it's more of it's an interesting topic. And I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts, good use of augmented reality, what are your thoughts there?
It's where the app comes into play. I mean, apps really help out quite a bit when it goes to utilizing. Does anyone here doesn't know augmented reality or anything like that?
Have you ever used Yelp with street maps? I don't know if it's a really interesting use of augmented reality. You put it down the street, it shows you where the restaurants are, it just overlays over top of reality.
So for your business, you can have situations where people can utilize their mobile device because it's always with them. And if you have specials or if you're trying to drive attention to certain things within your brick and mortar store or around an area, or just constantly keep them privy to whatever experience you want them to have based on what you're selling, you can have them integrate into where I'm looking around. Pokemon Go, that's a great example of they took a
I would love to have one.
Absolutely, yeah. And take that Pokemon Go concept, because it really was not a huge development process, from what I've heard. I'm not a developer, but I've heard it was pretty simple. And you can take that and literally, when your people are walking with you, you can have them scan areas and be able to have them see your brand. Know what, tell them a message. Direct them to your store. How do you make their life easier?
I think wayfinding is going to be the biggest application of augmented reality where it's actually valuable for the next little bit, especially in our local market. Now, if you go to any of the large metros, New York City, even Atlanta, Miami, augmented reality plays a big part in some of the local culture, especially around shopping. Macy's, before they closed all their stores, had a Wear It app that was augmented reality. Basically what it would do is you could scan the barcode, and if they had it available online, you could wear it like through your phone and look and see what you would look like in it. Wasn't highly successful, but it was a good use of augmented reality. Snapchat Spectacles. This is the big augmented reality cool thing. Snapchat's my favorite app. I get crazy on there. Snapchat Spectacles allows you to take video and pictures using the glasses. The difference is this. People point their phone in certain directions and take pictures. People take selfies, but rarely do you ever see what they actually see. So with the augmented reality device with the spectacles, you're seeing what I'm actually seeing from my point of view. So it's very much different than a picture I staged. Augmented reality is largely this way, even with wayfinding, where like Google Street View uses augmented reality in some metros. It's not available everywhere, where you can pop it up down the street. It'll actually, with your walking directions, put a line on the road and tell you exactly where to go. It'll tell you how to avoid traffic, tell you businesses you should stop in and things like that. Where it's beneficial for you is in the augmented reality experience. Knoxville is probably a year, 2 years away from really doing this well. But get on board now and learn about it. Is throwing your coupons, your deals on there on the Google platform. They'll pop up when people get near your business. So I'm walking down the street, I pass by, your loan office, and you've got some kind of great rate right now. maybe I'm walking down the street and I want to refinance, you know, and I'll stop then. Highly unlikely, but it's more likely if you have an ice cream shop.
Impulse loan.
But if it worked once, it's worth the shop.
I think there's a whole other industry segment for impulse loans.
But
Two phrases going to it.
But augmented reality is really where our progression will occur here locally. Now, virtual reality, for most of you, the marketing just won't be there. There'll be some advertising that you can do. So when you think about digital and mobile advertising, think about virtual reality, because as more people put on their Google Glass, which is gone,
There's a Sea-Ray, local company uses virtual reality to tour their very high-end yachts. And so you can have the experience of walking through the high-end yacht without having to create the customization on each one. So you can do an intake when they're at a boat show, they can ask you questions, what are your preferences, and then they can program it into the VR and you have the experience far less than it would cost to build a prototype. So there are good applications, it's just for most of us
it's very far away.
but it's experiential. I mean,
You can take their sad life in their small little home and experience
Yeah.
the home of their dreams. And then give positive messages to them. Don't you know that people like you now?
The digital advertising is where it'll come into play. Samsung's Galaxy Gear device actually already will allow you to browse Facebook and Instagram, which is interesting in VR, because when you get into the 3D photos, you can actually move around them using the VR. Where that's cool is Facebook has already said that by mid-year they're going to serve up ads inside of those 3D videos. So, and those devices, though most of us don't have one, I have one, they're really cool. They're starting to become more common as people realize you can watch movies on them through Netflix, and it's like being in a theater. And don't get me wrong, it's a little different sound quality, but the viewing experience is amazing. If you can handle wearing the device for 2 hours. But advertising, digital and mobile advertising, are going to become the key things you can do with augmented reality and virtual reality over the next couple years here.
So we had one question before about Beacon. So I think we ought to address it and talk about Beacon Technologies. Everybody know what that is? Anybody not know what that is? Go ahead, I'll let you define it.
You guys are Beacon? Can you show it to everybody? Sorry, I want you guys to see what this looks like. It's tiny.
All the fear just went away.
It's got
it.
Just to talk about the technology for a second, a Beacon is a Bluetooth or Wi-Fi enabled device that comes with an adhesive back. Usually they're between $59 and $200 for a decent one. You know, you can get really, really nice ones that are about $1,000.
How much was yours?
15 bucks.
15 bucks. All right, that's still fine. Still fine.
Impulse buys on Beacons, right?
You get 100 of them. But Facebook came out with their own Bluetooth beacon about a year ago. They had a pretty successful marketing run with it, and it's still there. But
So how does it work, John?
all right, so how a beacon works is it is a proximity sensor. So basically, if I'm on Facebook and I'm using a Facebook beacon, I'm on my Facebook app, I'm in the convention center. We use one, we have one in the Knoxville Convention Center on their escalator. And if you're inside the app, it will prompt you to look at what events are going on as you pass by it, if you're inside Facebook. What it can do is, if you're within proximity, it's accurate to about 25 to 50 feet really, really well. You can get them up to 200 feet, they're okay. But Bluetooth is pretty accurate, 25 to 50 feet. But they get close to your beacon, they're inside Facebook or your app, or they're inside on your mobile website. You can throw them a notification that says, hey, while you're here, do this. Really,
You have to opt in. Does the user have to opt in to get
No.
the beacon signal?
No, there is some privacy concern with beacons that I'll knock out of the way real quick. They can't accept data. They can only transmit data. The way they work for proximity is they can sense devices. They can't accept device information. So don't worry about your privacy. It's not stealing anything from you.
And OS specific?
No, there's beacons for every single device specific. They're not device specific.
And you have to be on the actual app, whichever. You couldn't just walk by his beacon and get served an ad.
Correct.
It doesn't. You have to be able. It's an experience. You want to be a part of it. So most people that are utilizing Beacon, it's not a hidden thing that they're trying to scare you with. it's welcoming you into an experience that you're able to now know what's going on in this area or this area to make your life experience better.
The Apple Store uses Beacon, so when you're in there and you open your shopping app, you can, it will direct you to where certain merchandise is. You can scan the barcode, walk out of the store without ever talking to anyone. We were talking about that earlier. People like that. I love it. It's the simplest thing. I feel like I'm stealing, but it's okay. I'm not. I paid for it, I promise.
The only atypical uses I've seen of with beacons are with Starbucks, Kohl's, and Old Navy. You ever been in a Kohl's and they offer you Wi-Fi and a coupon? When you're there, you get the little message. It's interesting that they can do that. They use your Wi-Fi acceptance on your Bluetooth to give you a message. That's one of the few ways that you can use that without being in an app. Starbucks always offers you the AT&T Wi-Fi if you're in there next to their beacon and have Bluetooth on. So there's a few ways you can use them. They're really uncommon right now, but they're large retailers, Apple, Old Navy, Kohl's, Sears used them for a little while, are using them to offer you coupons when you're in their app to offer you a better shopping experience. Apple does this really well in their retail stores, where you open up the shopping app and if you're near one of their programmed beacons, it'll actually say, what are you looking for? And then it'll help you wayfind through the store based on your selection. So I'm here for accessories, earbuds. You need to take a right, they're right here on the wall, and it's going to show you that. Really cool that way. In your application, you're talking about real estate, correct? Real estate, any of the B2B stuff, any of the B2C stuff, the best way to use these is to get somebody to have an interaction. Now, the hardest thing for you in real estate is going to be them being in a mobile browser on your website at the time. So you've got to provoke them to do something before they get to that sign. So that's going to be the interesting thing. Now,
On the sign.
correct. Now, when they're inside, during an open house, is where I can see this being used all the time. Where they're inside, you place these beacons throughout the house, and it tells me things about the house. I walk in the door, you tell me to go to this website or this app, it pops up and tells me, this countertop is made of this. If you head down here, there's where the master bedroom is. Handles the tour for me, for people that may not want to talk to me, which happens.
Well, an integration there of SMS and the beacon can be really powerful. Text the short code, you get the response, then it drives you to the website. It's thinking about that user experience.
Yeah.
And just so I don't forget, you touched on Wi-Fi. If you offer that in your place of business, that is an incredible area where people will agree to things to get Wi-Fi, and that does instantly give you opportunities to have them, like your Facebook page, become part of your ecosystem online just for liking. And you can set up, parameters within that free Wi-Fi that gives, people, they're on their mobile device, and when they like it, you're going to get that information. You can use that really well. There's a lot of businesses that we use that Wi-Fi function for.
All right, guys, 1 minute. So I said to do 3 applications that people can walk away with. We'll do 1 minute instead because we've used a lot of time. So, Andrew, go.
I would say first, allocate a budget to it. Mobile is here. So create a budget that you're going to do and then become an expert or find someone in your business to start, tell them to get educated on it and then test it. But have a budget, do research, and then actually use it. And then you can test that. It's going to be something that you're going to be hitting your audience.
Stop believing everything you read. If you read Business Insider, Entrepreneur, Harvard Business Review, they're all going to say something different about mobile marketing. Do it yourself. Glean tips and tricks from those publications, from any publications, from me, any of us. I don't know your consumer like you know your consumer. Now, you can pay me to come know your consumer, but I don't know them that well. So learn about your consumer. Watch them use their mobile device. If you want to know how to market to your consumer, watch them use the device. There's no better analytics than watching somebody use their device sitting at your desk. So watch them use their device. Second thing with chatbots, there's chatbots.io, there's motions.ai. They're both free services that allow you to experiment with chatbots. Get in there and play. It is a digital playground for chatbots that's not going to cost you a dime to try it out. You can screw it up, delete it, try it again. And the last thing is get Google Analytics Pro. It's going to do all the work that I was talking about with gleaning your own data for you. It's like 19 bucks a month, it's super cheap, and it's going to compile analytics about your website users that you didn't know existed. There's points of data from your website, hotspot analysis. Anybody do hotspot analysis? You're totally wasting your time having a website without doing hotspot analysis. Because a hotspot analysis tells somebody exactly where, tells you exactly where somebody puts their mouse when they're on your website. So it's going to tell you your form fields are in the wrong place, your type's too small, your logo's messed up, and you need to move everything around. It's going to tell you everything you need to know. So
Here's John, go.
Scroll. I love the scroll.
You know, I think, I really just have one point, and that is, above all, with everything you do in digital marketing, indeed, any kind of marketing you do, you have to respect your clients. You have to, you only get one chance, really, per user, to convince them that you are the solution to whatever problem that you help them figure out that they have. And to that end, you know, all the data we've got, all the things we've talked about leading up to this, if you don't use that responsibly, and you abuse the things that they give you, you'll lose them. That's all I have.
Great. Well, thanks, guys. I didn't have a lot of Q&A time. We'll be up here, glad to answer anything. But thanks for your time.